and welcome back everyone. My name is Micah, and in this installment we'll be looking at a few more strange details in the film, diving deeper into more theories about Sam, what's going on inside his head, and what he may be guilty of. While most of the ideas in this video are my own, not all of them are, but I will be expanding on some theories that are already out there. I did join the subreddit for this film, which I have contributed to, but have not posted all of my ideas yet because I really wanted to publish these videos first. The first detail I want to discuss is Sam's smell. Sam smells bad before he even gets sprayed by the skunk. This is something that I picked up on after the second watch or so. The actress that Sam is sleeping with brings him food and promptly mentions that something smells. He attributes this to skunks, which is possible, but Sam hasn't been sprayed by the skunk in the bushes yet. So what gives? My wife and I have an interesting theory about this that we'll get to in the next video. It would be easy to attribute the other mentions of his smell to the skunk spraying him in the garden, although it's strange that his smell was mentioned before we see him get sprayed. Sam wears several shirts throughout the movie. Although he doesn't shower or bathe much, he does change clothes a few times. The most notable shirt is one worn for a good portion of the film, and it has interesting subliminal significance. Before Sam is even introduced to the tombs, we're being primed for this reveal, and although Sam misinterprets the tombs as a bomb shelter, the hieroglyphs should have given it away as well. The shirt Sam wears depicts artist Emanuele Taglietti's Wallenstein monster. Wallenstein is depicted as having dug a grave with a young, mostly nude blonde over his shoulders, tied and gagged. Presumably, he is planning on burying her alive, which is reminiscent of what billionaires like Jefferson Sevens are doing by brainwashing the young women they've taken as brides, and all but forcing them to an early grave. There are other theories about Sam's shirts throughout the film, so I'm curious what you all think. Next, while Sam and the actress are having sex, there is a women's tennis match playing on the TV. This is a not-so-subtle joke about the uproar in the tennis world post-Maria Sharapova. If you're not a fan of tennis, this might just seem like something random that was on TV, but when Maria Sharapova started her meteoric rise in major tennis, officials and fans thought her and other players' exertion sounds were gratuitous and unnecessary and evoked thoughts of sex or childbirth. Even up to the point that rules were made in the name of preventing distraction or hindrance to other players. To me, this is just one of those sexist double standards. It was never a huge issue until women started doing it. However, I digress. This is still a funny detail. Further on, as Sam and the actress are closer to climax, they're watching the news report that interrupts the tennis match. The story about missing Jefferson Sevens shows his wife pleading for any information leading to his whereabouts. As the press conference comes to an end, hilariously, the wife says,
"Please bring Daddy home,"
as Sam and the actress climax, and we cut back to the women's tennis match. Another interesting detail here that we noticed after the second viewing is that on Sam's bedroom wall, the actress draws attention to Sam's poster of Kurt Cobain, signed by Francis Bean Cobain. But when we get the wide shot of the room, if we look at the rest of Sam's wall, there are discolored spots on the wall, possibly picture frames or posters that have been removed, and the Cobain poster as a band-aid to distract from the blank walls. Perhaps this has to do with Sam's breakup with his ex-girlfriend, or perhaps this is a directorial decision denoting that Sam has a few screws loose, or even a joke that you can't complete a puzzle without having all the pieces. What do you think? Another couple of details that I began to notice were back at the author's house, a couple of pyramid shapes. Then again, when Sam happens upon the billionaire and his bride's about to be buried. And again behind Sarah when Sam has a video call with her. This naturally has associations with burial in pharaohs or kings in Egyptian religion. Other things that come up a couple of times in the film are references to Zelda or the Triforce symbol. In the author's house, he has several of these, and when Sam matches the map from the Space Stone serial with the Nintendo Power Magazine issue 1, it aligns with the gameplay map from Zelda. I don't necessarily think this is related to another code, but I also don't know that for sure. I think this is making an association with the Holy Trinity, as threes are a recurring number of significance both historically and in the film. We hear this mentioned when Sam goes to the purgatory party from the cosplay actor.
All these holy trinities of women thriving like plants under the heat of the city's male gaze. 3, 3, 3, 3.
Jesus, the musician, has 3 brides, as do the billionaires in the realm of Jefferson Sevens. What 3 words from the puzzle sheriff tombstone entries as well. The last seemingly inexplicable set design detail I'll mention in this video is again back in the author's house. On his wall are lots and lots of drawings and pictures of the moon phases. Although from what I know in the film, the moon is never specifically mentioned, but we do see at the very least in the scene when Sam and Millicent go swimming in the reservoir, there is a full moon. My wife hypothesized that this could be related in some way to the owl's kiss, and in her research she found that many species of owl hunt much more while there is a full moon, as visibility is drastically improved and the camouflage of prey is reduced. When we are shown the animation of the owl's kiss while the actress reads it, there is a full moon drawn both behind the head of the owl's kiss on the zine, as well as in the sky while she walks to the open window of her victim. Perhaps the author is tracking the strike pattern of the predator, and that's why he has so many scattered around the room, as well as this newspaper clipping that says, "On the moon." Let me know if you have any thoughts in the comments. The next theory is a pretty big one, and will eventually relate to another that I will elaborate on in the next video, so hang in there with me. Sam is the thief that the author briefly mentions when they meet for the first time. When Sam is inquiring to the author about the keep quiet symbol left behind in Sarah's room, the author brings up that there has been a lot of missing posters around town.
There's been this rash of lost and found signs for dogs, humans, musical instruments over the past 2 years.
When the author brings up musical instruments, Sam gives a rather concerned or suspicious look.
Musical instruments over the past 2 years.
If we're to consider that Sam is broke, can't or won't pay his rent, has his car repossessed, then how does he have so many high-end musical instruments? A Gibson acoustic, a Les Paul, either a Fender, J, or P bass, a number of amplifiers, guitar cases littered around his apartment. And that's not even mentioning that he has 2 televisions and a number of other nice electronics in his apartment. Okay, so now that we've established that Sam has all of these possessions, how did he get them? Well, we've been introduced to the idea of him stealing from his explanation to the actress about his dad's Playboy magazine. While this may seem like a relatively innocent thing for a kid to do, Sam has held on to this for years. Expanding on that, when Sarah goes missing, Sam shimmies a window open very quickly. It looks like he's done this before, and although his entrance isn't exactly of Spider-Man caliber grace, his use of the screwdriver is well rehearsed, and undoubtedly the windows in his complex are all the same, so it's familiar to him. This brings me to my next point. Why doesn't Sam sell off his belongings to keep himself from being evicted or losing his car? And why doesn't he take any of those things with him when he leaves his apartment for the last time? Let me explain. If you've ever been as broke as my wife and I have been before, you've likely had to sell things. I've sold guitars, effects pedals, computers, and other personal belongings. When you do so, especially at places like a pawn shop or a music store, they copy your ID and often register the serial numbers in their inventory, and they can also be cross-referenced with police reports of stolen items. So if all of these items are stolen, Sam can't simply go and hawk all of this stuff, because if they've been reported stolen, it would undoubtedly lead back to him. Also, Sam even has a bicycle on his patio that he never bothers to use, even after he's lost his car. Perhaps he's concerned that someone nearby might recognize it and lead back to other stolen items. Moreover, Sam leaves all of this stuff behind because likely much of it was never his to begin with, aside from the fact that now he's effectively homeless and has nowhere to put all of it and no way to reasonably transport it elsewhere. Another thought I had on this subject is that Sam's mother tells him that she taped a Janet Gaynor film for him and is mailing it, but wanted to make sure that he had a VCR. If you don't know what a VCR is, I can't help you. Sam tells her that he has one, but it's not hooked up. We get a pretty good look at Sam's apartment and belongings throughout the film, and it doesn't appear in any shot that I've been able to locate other than at the end of the film when he finally gets that package from his mother. So did he steal this as well recently? Did he decide in this moment that he was going to steal one so that he could watch this movie and avoid disappointing his mother? Let me know what you think of all of this. Okay, the next section is harkening back to my theory that Sam might be suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. This framework would suggest that Sam, and thus the viewer, is struggling to decipher what is real and what is a hallucination or delusion. There is only one occurrence in the film where we are sure that Sam is dreaming specific events, and that's the sequence where he is walking behind his complex and happens upon the man dressed as Sarah eating the entrails of another man. At the climax of this sequence, Sam wakes up on his couch with his hand down his pants. The rest of the seemingly unreal things happening to Sam in the film are either framed as hallucinations or as really happening so far as we can tell. That is, at least from Sam's perspective. So with that preface out of the way, I think that Sam's friend, credited only as Bar Buddy, is someone that Sam has created to justify his paranoia, fears, project all of his darkest fantasies, and his voyeuristic nature. His character only seems to reinforce what Sam is thinking and feeling and provides exposition or sympathizes with him. It's normal for someone to empathize or sympathize with a friend, but an example of something that's not normal. When Sam says,
I feel like somebody's following me.
His friend says,
Yeah, probably. Honestly, who's not being followed these days?
a normal response here would have been to ask questions. What makes you think that? Have you noticed anything specific? Do you need a place to crash? Instead, he enables Sam's paranoia and even frames it as normal because
At the very least, the entire population is suffering from mild paranoia.
he follows this up by saying,
See, our little monkey brains, they're not comfortable knowing that they're all interlinked and routed together now in some kind of all-knowing alien mind hive. And that shit is a straight-up cesspool for delusion, for fear. Oh,
and his thought is interrupted by the woman that he's spying on, a reference to sex or porn addiction being a distraction. He's talking about the internet and all of the devices we're connected to and all of the information that we have at our fingertips. Obviously a paranoid rant. But something else struck me here. He specifically mentions monkeys, delusion, fear, paranoia, all things that resonate with Sam. You might be thinking, how are monkeys important to Sam? Perhaps this is a simple reference to the film 12 Monkeys, where humanity is forced underground because of a deadly virus. But I'm not so sure. In my previous video, I mentioned that one place that we definitively never see an owl statue or image is in Sam's apartment, barring the owl's kiss and its possible association with suicidal ideation. One statue that we strangely do see in Sam's bedroom on the dresser is a monkey smoking a pipe. Just to the right of that, we see a poster from the film 12 Monkeys. Although the title is obstructed, we can clearly see monkey shapes on the poster. If the bunkers are even another delusion, this could denote Sam's inception of the idea of a great war that necessitates a shelter. I believe that this friend is another example of Sam's unconscious mind manifesting experiences to reinforce or vindicate his observations about the world, and he populates these delusions with things that are familiar to him. Sam's monkey brain isn't comfortable with all the things happening around him, and he needs to feel like he has someone in his corner fighting with him. Let's look at another example. When Sam and Bar Buddy are playing Mario at Sam's apartment, Sam is trying to find a hidden message in the song Turning Teeth. Bar Buddy expresses an idea that in a way defines Sam, that we crave mystery because there's none left, conveniently timed with Mario descending into a pipe as Sam begins working on his code breaking for the song. Additionally, here we can hear the parrot in the background saying whatever he is saying, which I think is also a reference to looking for meaning or mystery where there might actually not be any.
Where's the mystery that makes everything worthwhile? We crave mystery because there's none left.
Before Sam met Sarah and she went missing, he didn't have much to live for. In fact, he used her disappearance as a catalyst to not only regain interest in something, but to build this mystery. Sam feels compelled by this idea because he can't find enough mystery in his normal life to fill the voids in his existence. Okay, I can't bring up this next example without making an assertion that I've been putting off, and it's one that had been made long before I saw the movie, but I'll be building on it in this video and the next one. Sam is the dog killer, and although I'm not going to go in depth to cover why that's true in this video, I'll expand on it in the next one. I just need that to be clear for now. So when Sam and Bar Buddy are at the bar, the friend brings up the dog killers. He says it pluralistically, and Sam seems a bit confused.
Have you heard about these dog killers? There's more than one.
Sam knows there's only one dog killer because it's him. He's disinterested in that conversation because it's not a mystery to him, and he doesn't like dogs as he was bitten by one when he was a kid, and the association that he's created between dogs and women. More on that in the next video as well. Additionally, if this friend is someone that Sam has created as a coping mechanism, it would be an easy mix-up in his brain because these two characters are one and the same, especially if this is a recent manifestation, considering he isn't given a name and there's no indication of how long they've known one another, suggesting that there are two killers when it's just Sam. While this may be a dramatization of how people suffering from schizophrenia experience symptoms, it might be difficult to portray that without outright explaining it, something the director has never wanted to do.
It is from this particular character's point of view. It's the way this character is seeing the world. I don't. For me, this is the point of view of Sam. It's how he is. It's his take on the world, and so I'm not really sure what else to say about it other than yes, we're embracing his the way that he experiences Los Angeles. As for references to my own work, I don't know if I really can explain it so much. I just thought that it was. I'm without ultimately explaining things within the film, which I really would rather not do. I thought it was just very fun to pull those references, and it directly connects with some of the themes that I'm trying to get at within the film, and some of the concepts that were important to me at the time that I wrote the script. To say more, I think would be maybe giving too many things away. Yeah, and I think some of that is also connected to some of the questions that maybe you were asking as well, if that's maybe helpful. The person right next to you, yeah, yes.
Working backwards to their conversation at Bar Buddy's house. A detail that's easily overlooked is that there's an empty dog bed on the ground near them, and from the back angle there are two dog bowls in front of the rock. The friend never mentions having a dog, and we never see a dog here. Perhaps if Sam is populating this conversation with things in his unconscious mind, he's calling back to his breakup with his ex. He mentions that his dog died recently to Sarah, possibly a lie. But also, when the homeless king asks him why he carried dog biscuits, he says that it's in case he and his ex get back together and he can give the dog a treat like he used to, which I absolutely believe to be a lie. The dog bed and bowls could be a manifestation of something missing from Sam's life that should be there or that he can't get over. On the other hand, maybe Sam did have a dog that he killed, triggering his breakup, or maybe his breakup culminated in Sam's killing of his ex's dog. On another hand, if the friend is a real person, perhaps he knows that Sam is unstable or that he's in fact the dog killer and keeps Sam away from his pet. Regardless of the truth of the matter, it's a strange detail to include. But the last detail I'll leave you with to strengthen my case that Sam and Bar Buddy are the same person is this. When Sam arrives at Bar Buddy's house on foot, Bar Buddy doesn't appear to have a car like Sam, despite being home and having a driveway. Additionally, there doesn't seem to be any specific personal belongings, plants, or other ornate things that might suggest someone lives here. Perhaps a reach, but most people decorate their houses in one way or another. Kind of a nod to the lights are on, but no one is home. Pushing this further, when the scene transitions to Sam and Bar Buddy sitting in the backyard, you can see them superimposed over one another respectively. Sam on top of Bar Buddy and vice versa. This isn't an accident. Stanley Kubrick was well known for doing this, particularly in The Shining, and I established at least one reference to The Shining in my first video, although there are several. Okay, this is a lot of information, I know, and I've tried to make it as succinct as possible. Let me know what you think about these ideas. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, take care and keep your eyes open.